The series begins at a doll sale fair, and a person named Jack arrives at the showroom. He is amazed by a bride named Chucky, and Jack decides to buy her and walks away. And Jack did not know that this bride was inhabited by the spirit of an evil killer. And the owner of the doll fair was thinking that there was a missing knife, and Jack, while he was gone, was listening to a podcast. A classmate of his named Devin Dave was talking in his recordings about the crime rates that had increased in the city. In a strange way, says that the crime rates that are occurring in the country today have not occurred since the 60s, specifically since the time when Ray's family was killed in the year 65, and the one who killed this family was the famous serial killer, Charles. But the police, I don't know how to arrest him yet. And then Jack goes home and searches his room, which is full of dolls, and Jack was making a statue out of the dolls, and he decided that he would break Chucky's head and put it on top of the statue. And we see that Jack's cat is very afraid of Chucky, and Jack is trying to break Chucky's head, but he doesn't know and takes advantage of the fact that the head of the game is very dry, and they read he breaks it with a scalpel. But his father, whose name is Lou, is afraid for him. The game Chucky talks like any other toy and says only one sentence and says, "My name is Chucky, let's play." Luke says to his son, "You are workers, you are wasting your time with these dolls, and you are also wasting your money. In my opinion, you should go out and try to work. 0 hours, 1 minute and 12 seconds, friends, or trying to find you a job that will earn you money. And the dolls that you collect will not help you in any way. So Jack is his, but I also love to collect dolls." Luke tells him, "Your mother, may God have mercy on her. She considered it a hobby," and Jack gets upset when he thinks about his mother who died, and he kills a little. In the words of his father in Luke B, he tells him that your uncle and his family are invited to U.S. night dinner, and Jack gets upset because he doesn't like them. He puts Chucky on the chair and walks away, and we see that Chucky moves his eyes toward the cat. At night, Jack's uncle and his family arrive, and they all sit down to eat. And we know from their words that Luke is a poor person, 2 pills, but his brother Dot, the one named Logan, was a rich person and had companies. Logan offered Luke to come work with him, but Luke refused help from his brother. And we feel from what they said that the relationship between the two families was tense because Logan's family was rich and Luke's family was not. And then Logan's family was talking about nausea. Their son Junior was in a competition at school, and Logan was happy with his son's achievement. Unlike Luke, who saw that Jack was not doing well, anything useful in his life. Worker buys dolls and makes statues of them. Junior also makes fun of Jack because he collects dolls and says that the whole school says that Jack is Shaz, and Luke gets angry and breaks the cup. He asks them to be quiet. Junior's mother calms the atmosphere and gets up to go to the bathroom and goes to Jack's outie. She starts to fear it in order to see the statue she is working on. She sits talking on the phone and then hears a strange sound coming from the closet. When she opens the closet, she sees the bride Chucky and the cat coming out of the closet after her. Then the day ends and Logan and Jack go on their way. He is standing outside the house and suddenly he hears a sound coming from his room in Beirut to see what is wrong with him. Bella finds his father breaking the statue of the dolls that he was making, and Jack tried to stop his father, but he does not know and is very upset when he sees the statue that he was making. His fatigue breaks in seconds, and Luke tells him that I don't want to see any other brides in your room, and he starts crying because of what happened, and all that remains is Chucky's bride, the only one who is healthy, and they read and get rid of this hobby of brides, and the next morning, he looks at the price of Chucky's bride on the internet and breaks it down. Its price starts at $500, and Jack originally brought it for $20, so he justified that he is taking it with him to school because he will sell it after school. When he rides the school bus, we see that his classmates are bullying him, and no one likes him. When he arrives at school, he meets Junior, his cousin, and his friend Lexi, and the two of them are making fun of Jack because he is coming to school. With a toy doll, Jack says that he will only sell it after he finishes school. Flexi pays more attention to him because he is poor and sells his needs, and she takes a picture of him and the doll and tells him, "I will post your picture on the school group because I don't want you to receive donations." And Jack was a very arrogant person and did not know how to answer them. And then Jackie was going to a class on anatomy, and he was complaining together. And the teacher was asking the students to explain the frog in front of them. And Jack did not want to explain to the frog because he is afraid of blood and could only open a small part of the frog's stomach and turn around and go back because of the blood. But when he returned, he found the frog dissected in a strange way and took advantage of what had happened. How come when all the students in the class receive a message on their phones and the message is from Lexi and she sends them a picture of Jack and the bride, and tells them that we need to collect donations for poor Jack. And the school sees the message and does not like the situation. And Jack gets very upset and asks the school to leave the bride with him until the end of the school day so that no one would bother him. After class ends, the school talks to Lexi alone and asks her to delete the picture of Jack and stops bullying him. But Lex, in all her heart, tells her, I am giving money to poor Jack. So the teacher tells her, I will bring you the principal. The school principal will talk to you herself and the school will graduate from the classroom and you are leaving Chucky behind. Suddenly Chucky moves and laughs and Lexi is shaking and still does not know where this sound is coming from. And she is begging when she finds Chucky standing in front of the door and walking towards her. But the principal and the teacher arrive, and Chucky stops moving, and Helix feels sorry for him from the bowl she is in. The teacher tells her, I will delete Jack's picture, and then she walks away. The school puts Chucky in a safe in her office while Jack was listening to recordings of Devin and Devo, who was already a classmate of his. And Devo comes to sit with him, and the two of them get closer to each other and begin to become friends. And at night, Jack stays. Chucky quotes, bride was put up for sale on the internet. And an unknown person called him to ask about the bride. But the strange thing is that this person asks Jack and tells him, this bride's name is Chucky. So Jack tells him, oh, so this person tells Jack, you need to get rid of this bride as soon as possible. If you don't believe me, go check if there are stones in it or not. And Jack is very surprised by what he said. And the next morning, he meets Jack. His father and Luke tell him, I didn't ask you to get rid of all the dolls, Amal. Why did you find him in the bathroom? And here Jack is shocked because Chucky is supposed to be with the school. And he looks to the side and sees if there are stones or not, and there is a hallelujah. Surprisingly, it turns out that there are no stones in it, so Jack completely breaks away from Chucky and throws it in the trash. He was thinking that this way I would get rid of it. He did not know that this was the beginning. After that, Jack attends a party that is held at school, and Lexi goes to the stage for her band to perform and receives it. She insults Jack in front of people and calls him a loser, poor, and gay, and suddenly a voice comes out from the audience. He is talking to Lexi, and the voice is talking to Lexi, and he tells her to stop bullying Jack while Jack turns around behind him, and Chucky remains sitting in the chair behind him. And it turns out that he was the one who was talking, and Chucky tells Jack to take me and go to the stage to improve your image in front of people. And Jack is listening to what he is saying on stage. And Chucky is speaking into the microphone and says, I am Chucky, Jack's friend. And people are laughing and keep thinking that this is Jack's show that he is doing. And Chucky takes out Lexi's phone and says, I looked through the pictures and found out that Lexi is cheating on Junior. She searches for porn sites and Lexi gets angry and picks up her phone and walks away complaining. He continues his speech and insults everyone in attendance. In a school, Jack enters and walks away. And Jack then returns home and Luke tells him that the school called me and they told me about what you did on stage, and the school rejected you for a week because of that. And Luke gets angry with him and tells him that why is he so weird when people are always laughing at you? And then he punches him in the face and takes a Chucky from him. And every time he comes into his room and curses, and Jack tells him, I hate you. And when Luke comes back to sit in his chair, he finds that his drink is finished, and then the electricity is cut off. So he goes downstairs to fix the electricity. But they are surprised by Chucky and Chucky. He sprinkled on him the drink he drank, and that was it. Standing barefoot in your house, and he dies. And Chucky kills Luke because he treated Jack as a monster. Jack goes down to the basement and sees his father being electrocuted and dying. The police then arrive and investigate what happened. And Logan arrives at Jack's uncle to take him with him to his home. Junior's mother, whose name is Perry, drops Jack off at his new room, and Junior doesn't like that Jack will be living with them in the same house. And after all the strange things that happen, Jack tells Chucky to talk and tell him, I'll break you. Chucky hits him with a pen, and then he moves and says to Jack, how are you, you wretch? And Jack asks him, you are the one who killed my father. And Chucky tells him, you and I are the ones who killed him, and he took what he deserved, because you can't let anyone control you like that. And Chucky also tells him, I killed your cat. And Jack understands that Chucky is the killer, Charles, the famous serial killer. And Chucky takes a knife out of his pocket and tells him, now it's Lexi's turn. And the next morning, Jack goes to school, and his classmates are mourning the death of his father. And one of them, named Oliver, feels sorry for him because he was bullying him one day and tells him, I'm inviting you to a party at my house today on the occasion of Halloween. And Jack agrees, despite the evening. What happened to Jack, but Lexi still didn't love him and was making fun of him while he was standing with Junior and at the same time in his family's house. Logan was the maid cleaning the house, and the house was empty and there was nothing else. And Jack had left Chucky in the house, and the maid went to get the dishwasher and cutlery, And Chucky came quickly after her. And the worker Bezek was on the knives. And he, Jack, and Junior died. Then they returned home and saw what happened to the worker, and the police arrived afterwards to investigate what happened. The investigators were surprised by the way in which the worker died, and they believed that it was not just an accident, especially since it was the second strange accident to happen in the city. In less than a week, investigators go to Luke's death, and Detective Sean says that Jack, he was present in both incidents, and Detective Evans was surprised because she returned the surveillance cameras at the door of the villa, and no one entered the villa before Jack and Junior. And the investigation ends because there is no evidence. And Jack goes to talk to Chucky. He asks him, "Are you the one who killed the worker?" Chucky tells him, "No. Not me. There is no reason at all to kill her. I only kill people who deserve to die." And at night, Perry remains afraid of Jack, especially since his father was very violent with him. So she remains afraid because of the violence that happened. Jack was told by his father that he would become a criminal and a murderer. But Logan did not agree with her and told her that he was not violent. What you are imagining is that he is with his son Junior and Jack listening, and Jack is upset by this talk and is afraid of the bathroom. And Junior is afraid of Jack's room and opens his laptop and realizes that Jack was opening Lexi's pictures and that they are jealous. At her, he tells Jack that you can't invite her. And Jack was as surprised as he was because he hadn't opened her photos, and he suspects that Chucky is the one who did that. Then Junior goes to the party at Oliver, Logan, and Perry's house. When they ask Jack about the party, he tells them that he's not going because of his mood. He is not nice and goes out of his room, but he is shocked that Chucky is not there, and he does not know where he and Chucky went. We see him wearing a mask and walking among the people, and no one suspects him, and they are thinking about a young family in disguise. And Chucky goes to one woman's house and asks where Oliver's party is, and the woman tells Chucky where Chucky's house is. Bishkar, holding an apple with a razor in her hand, because when the woman eats it, she gets upset and complains. Then he arrives at the party and sits playing with Lexi's sister, whose name is Kaloran. And Caroline used to like to complain a lot about an hour ago when she saw him at the school party. At that time, Junior arrived at the party and was sitting with Lexi in a room alone. Chucky gets bored and sits under the bed with the knife and tries to kill with it Lexi. But Lexi moves a lot and the stabs don't come in. She miraculously escapes from Chucky's stab wounds, and one of them comes from the party and asks them to leave the party, while Jack arrives at the party and is looking for Lexi because he wants to catch her before Chuck kills her. And Apple's friend is Devin. And they start looking for Chucky everywhere. And Devo asks him, "Why are you looking for Chucky?" So Jack tells him, "If I understand you, you won't believe me." And Jack then sees Lexi dancing at the party wearing his father's clothes and making fun of him when he died, and Jack is very upset that Lexi is even making fun of his father. When he died, he saw Chucky and took him away from the place and went home, upset and frustrated with his life. Chucky tells him, "I told you before that there are people who deserve to die, and this world is full of evil people." He has a knife in my hand and tells him to kill Lexi with it because she crossed the line. And Jake is convinced because he still hates Lexi so much. He takes Chucky's peace of mind, and Chucky gives him instructions to kill her and tells him to keep an eye on her until she's left alone. The next day, Jack is actually watching Lexi and Bella as she runs through the garden. So he takes advantage of the opportunity that she's alone and goes to kill her and runs after her. And he was about to kill her. He kills her, but it turns out that this is Junior, and he was wearing the same clothes as Lexi, and Jack is hiding. Sakina walks away, and Junior goes to Lexi, and Junior tells her that you should apologize to Jack because this time you provided her. But Lexi refuses and tells him that it is impossible. So John gets upset with her and leaves. And Lexi is afraid of her house and finds her sister Dot. She is behaving in a strange way and wants to play with Chucky, and her father and mother are trying to get her back with anything, but she is not satisfied and does not want anyone but Chucky. Flexi is thinking about apologizing to Jack so that she can take Chucky away from him, while Jack was in the garage and was choosing a weapon with which to kill Lexi. And Lexi then arrives and sees him. He was holding a knife, and she didn't know that Jack was training to kill her. And Jack said, for her, if she asks about Junior and Junior is not there, she says to him, "I am coming for you." And Lexi gives him her back while she is talking to him, and Jack was thinking of taking advantage of the opportunity and killing her. But Petra came back at the last minute, and Lexi feels sorry for him. I feel sorry for his father, and Jack gives him some guidance, and she asks him for Chucky because her sister wants him. But Jack, of course, flatly refuses and leaves to walk. and Jack goes out to Chucky and tells him that he was still with Lexi. So Chucky tells him that you had the chance and you hesitated. So Jack tells him that I really was. I wanted to kill her, but there was no point in killing her in the garage because that was too risky. Chucky's big brother tells him, "You're a coward, and like this, I have to do the work myself." He takes the knife from Jackie and tells him, "I have my sister Lexi as she requested." In fact, Jack takes Chucky and goes to Lexi's house, with Chucky in his hand for Caroline, Lexi's sister, and Caroline is very happy and sits playing with him. Lexi takes advantage of the fact that her father and mother are not at home, so she invites her friends to a party and goes to sleep with Caroline, and Caroline puts Chucky next to her in the bed. And Lexi goes out to enjoy the party with her friends, and everyone keeps wearing headphones and playing songs and dancing. And Chucky wakes up and cuts the blanket with a knife, and gets up and keeps watching Lexi. Oliver runs past Chucky, and Chucky runs away from him. By mistake, Chucky tells him, "I'm sorry, I was thinking of you." Lexi and Chucky then don't hesitate and kill Oliver, and no one sees what's happening. Then Lexi was sitting in a room alone, drinking a cigarette, and Chucky gets scared and pounces on her and tries to kill her. And the cigarette falls from the Lexi's hand, is at the curtain, and she is trying to resist Chucky, and Chucky wanted to kill her by the neck, but the knife falls from him, so he begins to suffocate her and kill her right away. And Lexi gives charity when she sees that Chucky is the one who wants to kill her. And at the same moment, the cigarette fire catches on their curtain and the fire increases very much. And no one. One of Lexi's friends felt in need because the volume of the songs was loud. And we go back to the days when there was a young family named Charles, and Charles saw a thug break into their house and kill his father. Charles's mother took her son, and they went to hide in the closet, and Charles had a small knife, and the thug approached them and opened on them the closet, and he found that Charles killed his mother with a knife. And Charles said to the serial killer, "I helped you and spared you a scandalous waltz." He told him, "You are a good boy and you will have a future, and one day you will become a famous serial killer." We will deny that Charles was born with a criminal intention and returned to Lexi's house, which will be completely burned down. Those who were in the house were injured and taken to the hospital, but their injuries were not serious, except for Caroline, who remained missing. Awareness entered and the focused eye entered Devin, who was among the children who were at the party, and his mother came to visit him and check on him, and his mother remained Detective Evans, and Detective Evans remained suspicious that Jack was the one behind everything. The accident that happens is because whenever Jack is there, a problem occurs, so Devin tells her, but Jack wasn't at the party. The engine driver, Evans, asks him about Chucky because she remains suspicious that there is something suspicious behind this game. And because they revealed that Oliver died because of the fire. No, there is someone who stabbed him in such a way, stabbed him and killed him. And Defoe is surprised that she doubted his game, and they read it. Also, in reality, Jack goes to the hospital, and Lexi finds out that she is alive, and nothing has happened to her. And Lexi starts telling him about what happened, and tells him that Chucky is the one who did this. Surely this bride is inhabited by an evil spirit. Jax will not be able to tell anyone that the game is inhabited by an evil spirit, because they will think we are crazy, and there is no proof of our words. He asks where Shaky is, so she tells him that the fire burned in him and he died. So Jax tells her that we must go home and make sure that he is dead. Otherwise, he will come back and he will remain. Felix wants to kill you. You are surprised by this and ask him why he is so suspicious. He wants to kill me. He evades the answer and takes and goes to her house, while the house remains heavily guarded because Lexi's mother remains the mayor of the city. So Jack sneaks behind the officers and enters the house and starts looking for Chucky. And Lexi asks Jack again about the reason. Whoever makes Chucky want to guide her, Jax wants to kill you because you have been bullying me all along. And even my father who died, I used to bully him, and I didn't know how to deal with you. So I agreed that he would kill you, and Lexi would be afraid of him. And Laura would come back and break the stair railing, and she would have fallen, but Jake would catch her. At that time, Chucky appears after being disfigured by the fire, holding a knife and saying, "For Jack, let her fall so that I can kill her and get rid of her." But Jack does not listen to what he says, and Chucky sits there complaining about him so that he can leave her, and tells him that life will give you a second chance. But Jack refuses and leaves Lexi, and then he fears for them, Detective Sean, and Chucky stands still and does not move. And Detective Sean, he sees them and asks them to get out of the house. He sees Chucky and says that he is taking Chucky to the hospital because Caroline's father told me that Caroline needs this toy in the hospital. Jack and Lexi are worried and go after the investigator and try to convince him not to scratch Chucky, but he does not listen to them and says that Lexi is your father. He was the one who asked me to do this. And then Detective Evans sees them and asks to speak to Jack Ali alone. Jack tells Lexi, "Go, get Chucky." Lexi is afraid of the hospital and meets Devin. Devo tells her that he did research on the internet about Chucky. Devo tells her the entire story of Charles, and Charles's story we will know in a little while. While Detective Sean he takes Chucky and goes to Caroline's room. He puts Chucky on the table and sits eating from the food that is there. Chucky takes a scalpel from his side and stabs Detective Sean's back. Chucky sustains a spinal injury and can no longer move. He takes out a large number of syringes and takes Detective Sean to anyone with them. When Sean dies, Jack goes to talk to Detective Evans, and she asks him about his relationship with Olive, and she also asks him about his father. Detective Evans confronts him and asks him, "Did you really kill them? Because every crime happened. Either you were there or her toy was there." And Jack started to get nervous and didn't know what to do with the detective. She presses him, and Jack was really going to confess the truth to her. But the resuscitation bell goes off because Caroline died, and her family is running on her. And he goes into labor, but it turns out that the resuscitator plug is broken, and they put a second one in, and Caroline's breathing returns. Then the doctors discover the story of Detective Sean and Pete's horror from the scene in which he died. Here, Detective Evans understands that Jack has nothing to do with anything. Because he was with her at one time, Detective Sean, Matt, Jack, Lexi, and Dave see Chucky in front of them, and he smiles at them with an evil smile. And we go back to Charlize's memories and see him after he grew up a little. And he was at that time in an orphanage after his father and mother died, and he was responsible for the children. The little girl and he told him a story, and all the stories he told were about murder crimes. One day, the janitor and I spoke to Charles in a not good way, so he joined Elle. He threw his story in the garden and brought the little children and showed them the corpse. All the children were afraid and ran, except for one child, revealing that this was the child. He has a criminal integrity. Exactly, Charles, and at night, the police arrived after the cleaner story was discovered, and Charles takes some of it and fled from the house and preferred all the time to commit a crime in places and escape from it. And on the day he met two daughters and got acquainted with them, and in a girl in them, what is her name is Tiffany, which she called him the name Chucky. And from her hour, Charles repeated calling himself Chucky, Taki, and Tiffany. You meet him and kill him, but Chucky, while he was dying, was in the place of bridal games called Joe J. And in the last moment before the work of his demonic talismans died and conveyed a spirit to play Jude J and Fatal Charles Ayesh, the face of the game, and executed a lot of killing. And it is possible that if you would like to tell all stories, the beginning of Chucky in second episodes, and Charles after that, he wanted to transfer his soul for the body of a person named Andy, but he failed. So he decided at the other to divide his soul for many parts and transfer the games, many likewise. I mean, he has become in many copies of Chucky, and of course the game is this, that is present with killings, and in another copy of his soul transferred to the body of a girl named Becca. And we return for the present time, and Caroline, with the superiority of coma, and asks her father to see Chucky and Abu Carolyn, he will remain preserved. He played Chucky because his daughter, but Caroline is looking forward to Chucky because he remained completely deformed. Fabo Caroline took Chucky and Burme in the hospital's waste, and then he would come to Tigi, ask about Chucky Fabu. He knows that he threw it in Flexi Hospital, removes Jack and Devo for hospital waste, and they sat down to Chucky, but they did not meet him in the second day of his family. His name is Tommy and Lexi when you see him with his perception, and follow to Jack and Div in the picture. And at night we see the real skepticism. He connects to Caroline's house and saw her from the net while she is playing with the new game that he likened to. And Abu Carolini is afraid to reassure his daughter at night in Bella in her sleep. And he is surprised by the presence of the mosquitoes. And he will not be understood. The gomme de jet here. How can I take it? And he was going to throw it in the Juberies with their house and let him see him while he was outside and imagined. She followed to Jack and Divin, card 100 Hata, and they made it up to the one who did it, and they think that they were also saved from it, and the second day of the investigator Evis and the mayor Michelle remains. We have to achieve in every crime that took place, and, God willing, we will reach the murderer, and in a curfew it will work in the city starting from the day and telling them that the school principal is make fee. I want to tell you a need, and the investigator Evis is not able. You're shrouded from behind the curtain and shows the Chawadi who did so after what he transferred his soul to the spirit of the game, Tommy, and reveals Ishki about the director of the manager after he separated her head from her body, Jack, Lixie, and Dave, in front of Tommy, and he says the demonic talisman with his soldiers. And the second day of the investigator Evinci, TG, the school, in the neighborhood school, is grabbed Rachel so that they met her mark at the crime scene and in this director's office. But it was precedent and was imprisoned for a time. But of course, Jack, Lixie, and Dewey, knowing that the school is innocent and could not, they tell the investigator Evis that the game you complain is the criminal, so that you will think of crazy people and acknowledge that they must behave in order to show their school innocent. And DVO tells them, I have done research on the net and read the story of a person named Dee and Andy. I found it about Chucky had a relationship with Bandy, and Andy is currently still a cruelty of his mental health. And he entered this clinic because he was saying that Chucky was the criminal, so they decided that they answered Andy's number and communicated with him. And indeed, they can answer his number and speak. And Jack tells Landy the story of my fullness and all what happened with him, my sister, and his sister Kyle. Tell you that he has a long history with Chucky. And Wendy tells him, Chucky, the time of my father and my mother is adopted from you. I want to take care of yourself and take your warning to him. With Junior, Wendy, and Kyle, before they went to Jack, they will do a specific journey and go to the house in a far place and represent the owner of the house that they are from the population census office. And they asked to meet all the people who lived in this house. And after that, they asked to see all the girls, and the girl to answer her games. Among them was Jude J, and her name is Charlie, Wendy, and Kyle Bakunin Jayan. For this game, she gave a complainant to Bischoff Andy and informs that he knows him and understood that Andy J is specific to him, so he would come up with his knife so that he would kill the little girl. But Andy is at the last moment killing Ashki, Wandy, and Kyle, hitting him with his bullets so that they make sure that he died, and he remains saved from part of the parts of Charles's spirit and moved to Jack so that he would give him the spirit of Charles, who is in the game that he has, and that a soul after her is for me after I grew up and stayed with her, with one named Becca and Bikade, who has a part from the spirit of Charles. Because Charles Zaman met and worked on it the devil and transferred part of the spirit of its heir. But we know that Becca, she returns to her real personality when she sees the blood and falls on the ground because she is in fact paralyzing. And she is trying to pick to Tiffany that she complains about the right moment to hit her and escape from her. But Tiffany takes her mind that the spirit of Becca is the one who dominated her body now. So her lord died on her brain and inspected her consciousness and takes her to the old Charles house and was brought up to some extent his soul as a complainant to return to her body. And then we go to Perry or Junior, and he touched that Perry has cancer and her illness in a late stage, and she did not want him to say her night of time because they prefer anxiety. And Junior, he is shocked, and then that he would prefer her side, and then he would go to the psychiatrist and say to her, he graduated from the doctor's office and stands at the nets, and Junior will be in the Arabic, and suddenly appears from her wandering in Biz B, and no one knows that Chucky was the reason except for Jack, who is about to be suspicious of his incident, Perry's death. Chucky is the reason in it, while Devin was on the net, a way you know if he entered the house or not. Small, even if he entered the house in the teddy bear, you will move and he will like the idea and go to it with Jack and Lixie in the house. The sound of a need is broken, and they understand that Chucky arrived and sit down on it, but the light was cut off and complained about it. The situation, but Chucky does not kill Lixie and tries to play her loud and persuade her killing Jack and thinking that she was enjoying bullying on Jack. And Jack appears from Laura Chucky to hit him. But Chucky Bischoff Jack is in reflection the knife, and he is going to run and sell Jack in his leg, and Divo remains standing in his righteousness and electrified. But I will not have a need for him and the electrocardiosit. But it varies, attacking it and signed by the latter, and its bad luck is its neck is broken. And Devo dies very annoyed, and between him on the death of his mother, and the second day, the funeral will work for Buri and the investigator Eves, and Devo decide that he surrenders and kills Jack and Lixie, that they stop until here, and sufficiently strong people who, she died and decided that they separated, and Junior Baiji speaks with Jack, and stressed in it, and says to him that you are the reason for all the people who died, because all the people around you die, with Lixie most of the time, and they did not talk permanently, even though they were connected, and his father's logo entered, and Becca's Jr., and then seconds arrived. Tiffany is close to Logan and Tabas, even though she originally did not know, and she does not know her, but she worked like that for a specific reason, and Junior saw her while she was in his father, and he remained that his father was Bakon, his mother, and then annihilate him. Walking after she carried out the wanted, and Junior came back to his illusion while he was sad, and complained was sought by him, to manipulate his mind and say to him, your father, this is a very bad person, and he came up with your mother. He must take revenge on Lixie and Jack because Lixie betrayed him. With Jack, who lived with him in his home, and tells him that Jack is the reason for all the problems, and Junior is convinced of the words of Chucky, and he holds the knife. But at the same time, Jack takes his knee to walk from the house because of the words that Junior said to him, and he will take money from his wallet. Logan and Walk. On the second side, Devin decides to take revenge on his mother, and he will respond to the title of the Charles house from the net. And Baker goes to the house so that she starts to revolve on Chucky and kill him. And he actually connects to the title and kills from the house. But Tiffany was not present while he was hearing the voice of Becca while she is asking for help. So Fedden it goes to her, put his bag and electrocardiology on the ground, and he moves, but he will see that his soul is Charles. It took control of the Becca body from the second, and after it was free to hold the electrical shock from the ground, they were on Devin and tied it in its place while Andy and Kyle were on their way to the title of Jack and standing in the gasoline, Burb in the driver's chair, and closes all the air of Beeben and moved on his own. And Basib said that he was afraid of her, and I did not want her to come with him. And Jack was still a continuation of his bus station, and he did not know what he was going to go. But all he was thinking about him is that he is away from the people who knew them. And in Chance Bishov, the delegate of shipping, Shale, played by Jude J., who likened to a complainant, Furbet, to pay him a price. The game is in exchange for the shipment delegate telling him at the address that the game was going to him, and he did that the delegate told him at the title, and the one on the occasion was the title of the old Charles house, and Jack Bayakle from him, and he will come out from the cartoon as making sure that this game is not inhabited by the spirit of Charles. So I took it with him and goes to Lixie and knows he is the game of the game, and they wrote are the two that the title of the delivery that the game was going to him is the same house as Charles, and also Bishov story Devin on Snapchat, and that he went to the same. The title is that they decided that they had to move in order to join him. And in the house limit me, only on the door, and say to him, the Almighty, I want to speak with you, and Chucky Bird in the place, and start moving, and the game is looking at it for Jack, Lixie, Jack and Laxie. At the same time, they were a junction of Uber. It comes to take them to Charles' house, telling Jack that Caroline told her that Chucky asked Caroline to kill me and kill our security, and sitting they think, why do you like to incite people to kill instead of what he kills? And he was. 00:30 p.m. Les and Chucky killed Farhan, and Junior will see him from the window, and I will be confused at the door, and Junior Benzel opens to him. The house inspects itself in the hope that he can meet Chi-Chi Choki, and Junior attended and say to him, stay away from the game, and after what walk I did not say the man who was here. The knife raises them, but suddenly someone appears, and whitening the fire with fire, and getting rid of him, and informing Nada Kyle, and you know that she is the sister of Andy, and let her ask her. Many and make his talisman on the brides of Jude J. So he is not able to transfer his soul except to the brides of Al, Joe J. Except for one of his victory, whose name is Becca, a destiny that he controls, and Jack, and let them say that our friend Devine is now in the old Charles house, and we must go to him, but Kyle is to be taught to them and tell them that Andy J in the sketch now, so we needed it, and I need it with his response. The last period limited to the command of Chucky, they say to her, not what happened. And they are thinking about who can remain to join to complain. But then the two are faint, and let them know that I said to them as asleep in the tea, and said to say to them that I did so to make you safe, and promise that I will make your friend Devin, and then Tiffany will return to the Charlie house, and also connecting to the house Junior, and with a Chi-Chi, and this is in this place in two Chucky, in the body of Becca, and one in his game Jude J. And they all descended to the basement, and see the army of Chucky and Dave Shiafal, Manzer and Baysab, and Tafani followed all the games in this Arab charging, so that you will ship to a place mowing, and then Becca returned to her consciousness again, and she imagines in Chucky and annihilates in front of her. And you are trying to escape, but you are not able to be paralyzed, and complained. He kept getting rid of Becca permanently because of the time to return to someone who is
the real, and says, I am in me 72 copies, with the knife. But Tiffany is hesitating, because Chucky prefers to be with her all the time through the body of Becca in Chucky Pima Jr. You think about thinking and saying to him that you are a time when I was a selfish cold, and I have not become victims on your own others, and I love to know you, that the police when I preferred to chase you on her day, because I got away from you and complained about me now, and say to her, I will take revenge on you, on the situation, and you will need me and Tiffany to inject you with a drug and its contrast and go to the bomb on the door so that when the house broke into the bomb, it explodes in it, and Busib Defo is tied and they all walk. But after a little, I will connect Andy to the house and can fear without what the bomb explodes in it and liberated Devon, and they were on, and they are about to escape. But it was said at the time to arrive and open the door of the house, and the bomb explodes, and we do not know who lived, who died. And the second day of mourning, Jack and Lixie excelled, and they see the news of the explosion in the Charles house, and I sold Dua that Devon died, Bazal and Biru Jack to Devon's house, so that he could leave him, but I will see that Devon lived the star of the explosion, and Davo told him about what happened with him, and he says to him that I am as much as he escaped from the bomb, but I did not know Andy, and said they lived or not, and Davo knows him. He washed his brain, and Dave, telling him, Brides of Al, Jude J, I have been filled with a place where they did not know. Today, you will work to open a children's hospital, the mayor, and many people will be present, and it will remain that it is possible to exist there, and we will go to the charitable party that the mayor, Michelle, Lixie, and Caroline. They were standing side by side, and suddenly Junior appeared from the rear door, Chucky, and he saw, and Junior calls on Lixie, and best I find her, Flexi go and see him, and he was walking behind his voice, and Michelle welcomes his actor, his candidate for the Academy Award, and whose name is Jennifer, and who is already Tiffany, but she is grateful to them, and tells me by saying that she has donated Bryce Al, Jude J, for all charitable hospitals in all its parts of America, and Caroline. I want to complain, the knife, and at the same time Chi-Chi, who is with Caroline Benzel from the chair, and he would kill Michelle
from under the chair, but she is charting at the last moment, and Takaki decides to kill Nissan, her nuts, and then kill a large number of people who are sitting and people crazy who is happening and looked forward to running. I don't understand who kills them. Jack and Davo. After that, Davo takes Caroline to walk from here, and Jack, Chucky, and Chawaki meets to say to him, my name is remembered in the history of your city, thanks to what I am doing in you, and not you, nor the stupid people who died a name that remembers. And the army will take America, and then it will run on Jack and Selling his leg was killing him, but Jack can resist him, and at the same time, Chawaki's second junior is that he kills Lixie, but Jack does not hear his words because he loves Lixie and goes to kill Chawaki. But unfortunately, Chawaki was a destiny that stabbed Junior with knife, and Junior dies between the hands of his friend. But Jack Fabier, destiny that throws a distant Chawaki, grabbed and Benfakfur Vaughn go out, and Bika, and they walked his family. Then we see the delivery factor about that he is moving in Arabic, in which the brides of Al, Jude J, suddenly in Arabic to get rid of all the brides. But suddenly in his bride, her atmosphere shows the spirit of Tiffany and raises a pistol on him and passes to the airport immediate. On your body, what does you do? Why do you need to see her body? By imagining the scene, we would have reached the end of the first season, and Chucky remains in the first season. About 21 people were killed and helped us to deliver this video to 8,000 likes so that I know that you want the second part and who reached the last episode. I want you to put emoji, the knife in the comments so I know who I liked the episode and pay bay.